So we have a confirmation with a second opinion that he definitely has prostate cancer.
And welcome to the premiere of If You Are My Brothers, the podcast. I'm your host, Reggie Hicks. And since this is the first episode, I thought I'd give you some background about myself and how this prostate cancer podcast came to be before we bring out my dear friend, Eric Chaney, who's kind of waiting in the wings there. And a little housekeeping too. I want you to know that this podcast is for informational purposes only, does not constitute medical advice. So please consult your healthcare professional for health concerns or before making health related decisions. Now, lawyers are happy, got that out the way. The second most important housekeeping item is to remember to share, to like, subscribe, and join us as we take this journey together. Now, this first episode, so I thought I'd give you a little background about why we're doing this podcast to begin with. There are a lot of things out there, but this is primarily about prostate cancer awareness. You know, we're going to have candid, down-to-earth conversations about prostate cancer, and we have a great person to start us off, longtime friend of mine and fraternity brother. We've known each other for probably over 40 years. Yeah, we're getting old. Eric Chaney. He'll be joining us in a few minutes, hopefully. I just want to let everybody know that things are storming right now. So we're kind of navigating like a plane does when it takes off. We're kind of navigating this stormy weather here in Atlanta. But I want to just give you some background about how I got started in my prostate journey. You know, a while back, a fraternity brother of mine, Ralph Franklin, sent out an email to, I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, and we have a very close-knit group of alumni brothers, if you will. And we were all getting a little older. Ralph was diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer, and he wanted to get the message out to everybody, particularly his brothers. So he sent out an email about finding out he had prostate cancer. I think his PSA at the time was 100. And if you know what a PSA is, which is the prostate specific antigen, your number should be under 1 if you're young, and it goes up gradually as you get old, but 100 is kind of way out there. So long story short, when he sent out an email about his prostate cancer issues, I decided to ask him, hey, would you mind me following you around and documenting your journey as a part of a documentary? I thought because he was so open about his situation. As a matter of fact, his diagnosis wasn't very good. He had about supposedly 18 months to live based on how aggressive the cancer was. But fortunately, that was not the case because he got a second opinion. He started his journey. I started right behind him with the camera. And about 1.5 years, 2 years into this thing, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. So long story short, I became a part of the prostate cancer documentary and this journey that we titled If You Are My Brothers. And we titled it that because at the end of Ralph's email, he specifically said, if you are my brothers, you will keep track of your PSA. You will, keep track of your health. And that's how we came to coin the phrase, if you are my brothers, which came to be not just this podcast that you're watching and listening to right now, but also a community engagement project and the documentary. So we are coming out to different places and meeting with people and helping them. And now we have a one-on-one conversation with you about prostate cancer, about what I'm going through, what the people who will be coming on the podcast over time. And we'll be taking your comments, questions. We hope that you will join us in this conversation. If you have questions and what you can expect in upcoming episodes, we'll be having conversations with survivors, newly diagnosed men like Eric, who are what I like to call watching and waiting. I think the technical term is actually active surveillance. We'll be talking to spouses and significant others. And of course, there will be the health experts, the doctors, the researchers, and even organizations that are represented, resource organizations that can help you navigate through all of the information. I know that if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you know there's a tremendous amount of information on the web. That's the first place we run to. We're going to talk about that with Eric as well. Now, I decided that I would have my prostate removed. And as a result, my PSA went down to almost zero, which means that the prostate cancer was contained in the prostate. And so, faithfully, and I'm just so blessed that for 11 years, I've been cancer free. But, and there is a but, an update on my journey, and this is also going to be a part of this podcast going forward. Last January, after my annual physical, my PSA was elevated. Not much, about 2.24, which is nothing compared to what it could be. But when you don't have a prostate, it should be 0.001. And that's something that had changed. So I went to my doctor. We talked about it. We decided that we would watch it. And then it went up to, I think, it was 0.14, and then it went up to 0.24. Now, this is when the internet comes in, right? I'm thinking, what's going on? It's going up. I went to this infamous thing called the My Chart. That's when you have all your information that comes from your doctor. Sometimes the tests get back before you can even get home. There's stuff, your results are in. And when I got the latest blood work and I saw that it was above 2.24, I wanted to find out what was happening. It listed in there that 0.24 and above could be what they call a biochemical recurrence. To be honest with you, that's a polite way of saying there are some prostate cancer cells that are in your body somewhere. And for me, it was a blessing because we caught this very, very early, this kind of gradual elevation in my PSA. So the next steps, we monitored. I had some scans. There's nothing that had metastasized. As a matter of fact, nothing showed up on the scan. But as the PSA began to rise to 0.40, we decided to look at radiation therapy. And I have decided to go with what they call proton therapy, which there is a proton therapy center Emory University has right here in town. There's about 6 or 7 of them across the country. So I'll be doing that as a part of my new journey in prostate cancer. I got 12 years. It is really after 5 or 6. Not likely that something will happen, but because I did have it removed, I did have radiation as an option. So what we're going to do on this podcast is also, you'll be journeying with me. I'll be giving you updates on the treatment, or how I'm feeling, and of course, the outcome of that treatment. So stay with us. That'll be part of it. We'll know what's happening as we continue to move on. Now, that being said, this is where we are. Welcome to If You Are My Brothers podcast. Thank you on the premiere show. We'll be having more episodes as we go along. But we have standing by my fraternity brother, Mr. Eric Chaney, and I want to bring him in because Eric can tell us a little bit about where he is in the process, what is happening with him, and let's go ahead and bring him in.
3 times the charm. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Very, very good. Very, very well. Can you guys see me?
Praise the Lord.
It's called, IT world, when things mess up right when it's supposed to, it's called tap dancing.
Yeah, well, and in this business, it's a little thing called editing. So, they won't have to hear me ramble. We can just get right to you.
Oh, so all right. First of all, before we start, how I look, am I okay with you? Can you guys see me?
Yeah, we look. At this point, you could be like in the dark, and we'd be happy as long as you're moving and we can hear. We can hear you. So look, next time we're not going to do this in the evening during the summer because I can tell you it's getting dark out there. So, but
Yeah, not only
anyway,
that, the storms rage. It's been nice all day until right now. I
until
knew I
right
said,
now,
when
right,
I heard it
right.
go, and I said, oh boy, I hope this doesn't happen. And then boom, and internet went straight out. And then we've been having problems ever since.
That's
Well,
okay.
good, man. I'm on.
Yes, yeah. So, Eric, now that you're here, I've kind of been telling about my story and about some of the decisions I made, and I know you're a little different as to where you are in your journey. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, as you know, my name is Eric Chaney. I'm your fraternity brother of the greatest fraternity that exists on this planet, Alpha Phi Alpha
Yeah.
fraternity. Both of you and I, we've been alphas for well over 40 plus years. I know, and with that, with our hair and the whiteness, right? We're telling our age and everything. But present, I'm a project manager and IT professional with um, several years of experience, in managing technology solutions, specifically now, right now in the education space, telecom, public sector. I've worked both in corporate and in school systems, including here in Atlanta with the Atlanta Public School System. But presently, I'm with Clayton County Public Schools.
Yeah. And what about your family? I know you're a grandfather, and
Yes, I have 3 children, 3 boys. I have 4 grandkids. I have 3 granddaughters and 1 grandson. So,
oh wow,
yeah,
I'm about to be a granddaddy, so
and let me tell you, ain't nothing like it. Ain't
I'll
nothing
need to
like
get
it.
some pointers
That
come
second,
September.
that second level, I tell you, ain't nothing like it. And then tell you, and I was telling some friends of mine this past Father's Day weekend. Enjoy this time because the time goes by quick. It goes by quick with your children, but it really goes by fast with your grandkids.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that through this podcast too, Eric, that we all want to be around for our children and our grandkids. And I will say that had I not been able to do and catch this prostate cancer early, there's a possibility I wouldn't be here and would not be able to witness this. So it is so important. Don't put it off. That's the thing. And I will tell you that you've been on it. But before we kind of get into your situation specifically, so how's your health been over the years? I mean, we're both in our 60s. We're still got aches and pains that happen
every day
just because they happen.
Just because, no reason. You wake up, you go, hey, what did I do the other day?
I know.
Didn't do anything.
I just got out the bed, walked.
Old man told me, he said, wait, you keep on living. You're going to start getting some stuff going on with you. You don't know why you're getting it.
And look, when you go to the doctor, and I said, doc, this is going on. And they just look at you and go, it's age. I mean, before they give you a pill, they give you, tell you to go to a specialist. Now they just look at you and say, you're just getting old. I was like, okay, all right. I've been getting that.
I had a doctor to do that for me. I said, man, what's wrong? He said, well, it's called AGE. He spelled it. I wasn't paying no attention. He said, it's a condition. He said, there's nothing you can do about it. He said, and guess what? It's progressive.
Right. But I will take that over the other option in any day. But how's your health overall?
Overall status of health is fine. I try to stay on a fitness kick ever since roughly around I was 43 years old. I started going to the gym on a regular basis. I've now incorporated it as part of my life. I can't see myself not going 3 or 4 days without doing some kind of, either some, I used to do a heavyweight training, but now I've gone to moderate to light because as you get older, you have to be careful about that.
Right.
Maintaining cardio, trying to work on the diet, seeing that I do a lot of work while I'm here, there, and yonder. I'm not really at home, and you have to catch stuff as you do it, as you go every day. So those are the things that I'm trying to watch. And, along with watching all of my normal numbers, it's funny that you mentioned, I was making a joke the other day, how old guys, they meet ladies, they say, I asked this girl for her number. and she told me 140 over 60. I told, I told this joke. I was at a function and I told this joke, and everybody at the table was my age and older. They understood it. They bust out laughing.
That's a good one. I gotta remember that one.
So, but yeah, I try to watch that. I try to get the right amount of sleep. What I've learned too in life as you get older, you have to listen to your body, and that's important.
Mm-hmm.
When you are tired, you need to sit your behind down and get some rest.
Mm-hmm.
Because your body will do that to you anyway. Because if you keep
absolutely.
going, eventually you'll just knock on off and fall off. But when you start feeling those things, when you need to rest, stop, take the time to rest. Even in concentrating on issues and concerns and whatnot, sometimes you have to just stop, step back, and just take a break. Because not only you've got the issues of everyday, just watching your health. Stress is one of the other things. Stressors can create all kind of other issues for you. Mm-hmm. So you just gotta make it. It's like a juggler. You gotta juggle a whole lot of balls at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Constantly.
So you're going along, you're working out, you're watching your diet and everything.
Going to the doctor on a regular basis. So what led your medical team to investigate your prostate health further? Well, two things. One, what happened was, what you don't know, both my mother and both my father died of cancer early. And my father, now I'll share this, my father died when he was 47. But because of a misdiagnosis, thinking that he was having some other kind of back issues, but what it was stages of colon cancer, and it really wasn't the colon cancer that killed him. The disease had metastasized, and if he had earlier detection, even back in the 60s, he'd probably still be here. Along with that, my mother, same situation. She started off with breast cancer, and then it metastasized, and before it was too late. The key things out of both of those is early detection, and you want to deal with it. So with that predisposition in my family, I saw as a need, and like my other siblings, like my sister and my brother, who's now deceased, but for another reason, saw the need to make sure that our doctors know this. That's part of my profile. So we make sure that we watch all the things that are necessary as it relates to cancer. Given that my father had colon cancer, I regularly have been getting colonoscopies, and the last one I had was back about 5 years ago in 2020, and I'm due one for this year. So first thing I did was in January, as soon as the clock hit, I called my healthcare professionals to try to get it scheduled. Now I've got it scheduled for later on. But in the routine of actually getting my health screenings, which I do once a year, also I'm diagnosed with chronic kidney disease, and it's in between stage 2 and 3. So I have a nephrologist that I have to go see every 6 months. Along with those things, because the kidney disease function problem came because of hypertension, as we know in African Americans, is predominant. And I've been on blood pressure since 2003. So, well, like I said, with all these things, so we're just watching all of this stuff. And in my profile, I also have blood work done, and the PSA was done. So we've been starting it. And then all of a sudden, as of last year, year before last, we noticed that it started gradually going up. So when it reached a particular point that it jumped from a number that was out of the normal range, that's when they wanted to go and investigate further and say, okay, we need to go look at this and do an MRI to see what's going on inside of your prostate.
Do you remember what that number was? I mean,
it was initially the initial number that it first of all, it crept up to a 4.5. Then it went from a 4.5 to a 6.2. At the 6.2 point, that's when they wanted to go do. They're saying, okay, they wanted to see what's happening with this. I got the resulting biopsy, and that's when they found cancer on the left side of my prostate. So that's when they wanted to go in and do the biopsy. And I had a biopsy done a year ago, back in May of 24. And I had a relative Gleason score that came out, and you guys will learn about those things later on. Roughly, it was between 3 and 4. And so what they wanted to do was, and it was saying that it was low grade.
Right.
So because of that, they said, well, what they did was they put me on active surveillance, which means I will go in, they will continue doing PSAs every 6 months and see what the trend line is. Along with that, doing an MRI, which I did an MRI back in March of this year. And they were saying that they still see it, and it's on the same side, and it don't look like they saw anything else. But now they want to do another resulting biopsy just to see if it's progressing. Now,
right.
Now here's what's so interesting about it. It was a 6.2. And then after I had done that next PA, it went back down into the normal range. And you and I, Reggie, and I was telling you about it, I discussed that, and they were saying that looking like it was okay.
Right.
However, that does not, the thing is, the prostate cancer is there. Okay. So the last PSA I had it went out of the normal range, and it went to 7.2. And at that point, that's when I called you. I said, hey man, how are we looking? He says, well, don't worry. We had to go in there and see how far it's gone. And even in talking to my urologist, their concern is they want to see if it's continuing to trend up.
Right.
So now, because like I said, you can have situations where it'll go up, come down, go up, come down.
Well, I had that happen, but for me, I think it was just I had 3 biopsies. The first one is when they detected, cancer. And what's interesting is, and I'm gonna say this because if docs out there listening or watching this, look, when it's a cancer diagnosis, don't come in with a big old thick folder full of stuff that, treatments and stuff like that, because following Ralph around, I kind of knew the procedure. So my wife and we actually have it on. Matter of fact, you see at the beginning of the opening is when I was told I had prostate cancer. He came in with a big folder in his hand. And I knew then, probably 30 seconds or a minute before anybody else, cameraman who's a good friend of mine, my wife, that the diagnosis was not going to be, the findings were not going to be good, because if it was fine, he would have come in with just a sheet of paper, right? So he's like, but then I had that one. Then I had a second one because they had this new procedure, and that I might be for this study that I might qualify for, and I went to get a second one that was paid for by the people doing the clinical study and the clinical trial. And lo and behold, there was no cancer. They went to the same places in the prostate and the biopsy, no cancer. So then I'm like, oh man, to your point, my PSA kept going up. And the third one is the one that started showing after, this has almost been maybe 8 months, almost a year, that there were other parts now. There were other, places in the prostate that had cancer. And then I had to make a decision on what I was going to do. Yeah. Right. So it's an up and down kind of thing. But to your point, I think if you're keeping track of your PSA and it's jumping up, there's something, there in the biopsies. Right. But what was going through your mind? I think the first time we've been talking, you and I. So
the very first time when I got that, I came right. I get my health and Kaiser Permanente. As soon as I came out, the first person was to call. I called you.
Yeah.
On the phone in the parking lot. Okay, because I was on the ledge getting ready to jump off.
I know we talk about you being on the ledge, right?
Yeah, buddy. Yeah. Buddy. I was like, oh boy. I said, Reggie, what's good? I said, man, look, come on, you got to school me on all of this. And you told me, I said, look, Eric, it ain't the end of the world. It's all right. You on track. You stand dead on top of it. He said, you got way more options. It ain't like it was 10 years ago.
No. As a matter of fact, I never had an MRI at all. Really? Yeah, it was just the biopsies, and that was pretty much, what told them, and they kind of knew where things were. But no, I didn't. MRIs, and they also have what they call a PSAM scan rather. I forget the term, but it is instead. I used to do a bone scan. because
Right.
that's where normally prostate cancer will metastasize is in the bone. But that was not 100%. But now they have a scan and they shoot you up with this stuff, and it will actually from head to toe will detect if they are, and you have to have a certain amount of cancer cells, but it will detect if there's cancer anywhere in your body.
Wow.
Now the only thing is, if it's at a real low level, it won't probably detect anything, which I had that scan
Mm-hmm.
when I had the recurrence, the biochemical recurrence, but
Mm-hmm.
nothing showed up because it was so early in the process. But again, my PSA kept going up. So you call
Right.
me, I talked you off the ledge.
You talked me dead off there.
Right,
You told me
right.
to get down like Ali. Ali told the man, get down, get down.
and then
It's all right.
and then the process started with you. So now you getting ready. Currently, you getting
I
ready to
go
have
in
a
for a
another one.
consultation next month with the urologist because, well, I will share this with the group.
Mhm.
The very first biopsy I had, I was wide awake, and
Yeah.
that I just got to be honest.
Yeah. Well,
It
just
was
speak
not enjoyable. Okay, let me just be as clear as I can. It was not enjoyable. So it's something that I don't want to actually consciously experience again. So this go round, I requested that, that they put me to sleep so they can go ahead and they can do whatever they want to do. And then we can actually evaluate the results. And then go from there. Just see what my then I can start if it's something that I got to really start looking at, or if they want to continue to keep me under active surveillance. However, we're going to go. So
Yeah. Have you
so I've accepted the fact that this is a process.
right,
So,
right. Have you thought about when the time comes? Have you sort of researched or talked about any kind
well,
of treatment at this point?
I've talked to a couple of people. You being one. I've talked to another friend of mine that actually went through the whole process of having it removed. Uh, just so interesting that I had a conversation with some of my fraternity brothers, my line brothers,
Mm-hmm.
on
Mm-hmm.
a Zoom meeting, and we were discussing all of our health issues, and this came up, and I've got another line, my brother. Matter of fact, uh, Frank
Mm-hmm.
was
Yeah.
explaining about his process, and he's going through the radiation treatments and everything. So I've got some decisions to make. I got to do the pros and cons on one versus the other, depending on how far, I'm progressed, because I mean, if it's a situation of, if it's gotten into more than one area in my prostate, I may have to make a decision,
Mm-hmm.
possibly doing what you did, or, going with any of the radiation options. And like I said, looking at what the pros and cons are and then make a decision.
Did what was it like? I mean, as far as you telling your family, what was that process like? Because I know that's
Well,
one thing that we all kind of as men we don't want
yeah,
to, because I went through it first time and the second time.
yeah, the very first conversation I had was with my son.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know a lot of times with my sister gets, overly emotional because of the fact that both my mother and father, passed with cancer,
Right.
and she's very aware. And she's even more medically conscious than I am as far as certain issues. So I breached the subject with him. And as a matter of fact, what's so interesting is that both he and I share a commonality in that he's having some prostate issues right now at his
Mm-hmm.
age. He just turned 50.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, you just turned 50?
he just turned 50. And
Okay.
he's having a situation where his PSA is going up and down. And he's had a series of MRIs and biopsy. He's had once MRI and he had a biopsy, and nothing came of it. They found no cancer and nothing anywhere. But he's still just puzzled by the situation about his PSA numbers going up and down. The reason, as a matter of fact, I just had a conversation with him today.
Mm-hmm.
The urologist had given him some kind of urethral dilation procedure. I'm not familiar with what it is, but
Yeah.
they were saying that possibly could be some of the problems. But his PSA went up maybe 0.4 tenths, from the previous reading. And I was talking to him, and I said, statistically, it may not be that much. It just depends on if it's a trend where it's still going up. So they've got him on a protocol that actually coming back in another 3 months to get another PSA and see where it's going, see what it is. He may have to have further diagnosis or them delving into looking at other things. May end up having another biopsy. I don't know.
Right.
I've kind of had to keep him off a ledge, and at the same time, he's kind of helping keep me off a ledge. So we actually talking to each other, and then we've each of us have broached the conversation. I did it with my sister, and I explained the situation. With my other stepson, I did the same thing. Slowly I've been, letting people in the family, know as I know more information. I didn't want to, just jump out there and say, "Oh, hey, this is what's going on." Boom, like dropping a bombshell. And it's also good to make sure, just like you and I talked, to making sure that we've got a lot of facts to explain about exactly where we are, instead of because when you not only it's a bombshell for you personally, but it's also a bombshell for your family members, because they're starting to think, and then they see other people, people like you hear people that have passed, or like O.J. Simpson, and
Dexter King,
David Sanborn, the saxophone player, and they say, and it's like, okay, what's going on there? And we don't know the circumstances by which they were dealing with their own health issues.
Right. And I think too, I mean, you look at President Biden. I mean, he stage 4, pretty aggressive, and somewhere, I don't know, I mean, I verified this, but I heard it more than once that the last PSA he had was in like 2015 or something. Right. And I know that he's older, and there's this misconception, I think, that if you're a certain age, that, because we're living longer, right? Correct. If you're in your 70s, it used to be, oh, well, shoot, you're going to die of something else. Prostate cancer is slow. It's you're not going to die from that. But now if you're living into your 80s, you get prostate cancer in your 70s, if you don't do something, your mortality rate, goes down. Yeah. I mean, right. So, absolutely. So I just think that, to your point, just knowing, and like I said, while we were trying to bring you in, I did mention the fact that I heard a newscaster say that that the PSA, somebody's PSA had gone up, and they had prostate cancer. And if your PSA goes up, does not mean, just like your friend, right? Doesn't mean that you have prostate cancer. Right. But you do want to know. You do want to monitor, like all the other numbers. I know we tired of numbers. Man, I'm so tired of numbers, and A1C and A1C. Your joke about the blood pressure. Every time I go to the doctor, they taking my blood pressure. Right. It's like, is it a good day or is it a bad day? So I've learned. You know what I learned? Put your feet on the floor. Make sure you're touching the floor. Relax. Take a deep breath. And think about the beach. That's what I do. Right. Exactly. You start looking at the white coats, get the white coat syndrome and all this stuff. And, next thing you know, your blood pressure is, if you're taking your blood pressure medication today, it's like, oh man. And, and to your point about that, about numbers, and when you were saying that about President Biden, that's really interesting in that he has not had a PSA done in 10 years. That is the exact same thing that my doctor said to me. She said, we don't, we want to make sure we monitor this. You don't need to spin here and you come here 3 years later and your number has gone jacked up from a 6 or 7 all the way up to a 20. Yeah. That way if we see stuff going in a direction, we can go ahead and start treating it and dealing with it. Yeah. Because, the struggle is real. I can tell you that. And I did have the opportunity, and I think we're going to post this video on the website, which is, by the way, ifyouaremybrothers.org. So you can always go to the website and check out, episodes and all the information. But I interviewed the scientist, right, that led the team that discovered the PSA, the prostate specific antigen. Oh, okay. And, in his words was, he felt like prostate cancer would be the first cancer to be cured. He thought that, it could be cure. And in a sense, it can, if you catch it early, not cure it necessarily, because, for me, 12 years later here, I'm kind of dealing with it again. But if you catch it early, you 5, 6, 10 years, or even a lifetime, that you don't have to deal with this anymore. But if you don't catch it early, if you don't do anything about it, then you may not be around for your grandkids.
Right. Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. So that's my goal. My goal is, okay, if we get into a point where something needs to be done, then we're going to investigate that, figure out the best course of action, and then we're going to take that action. And there's no question about that.
Yeah. Well, Eric, I appreciate you, man, coming on finally after the storms and
storms,
computer.
Asking her for her number.
Oh my goodness! This is the first one, that always happens on the first show. I just this is the way it is.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah,
I'm glad you have me. If anytime you want to have me back and we get further on discussion,
Oh yeah, we wanted to let you know we're going to stay in touch with you as you navigate your journey. I think there are a lot of men out there who are just where you are, kind of this active surveillance, trying to figure out what's going on. And then, but the good thing is, once you get to that point, right, the next step is to do something. So you are, like you said, we've been talking about this. It's a process.
Right.
You're in the process. You're right where you need to be. And I think as you go through this process, it's going to help some other folk as well. So we're going to bring you back.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to put you on a different computer. We're going to make sure it's early in the morning when there ain't no storms.
Right. Early in the morning. Right. That'll work. That. Reggie, I'm with that. Listen, this is going to be interesting. The conversation that we're going to get from the French, that.
Yeah. Oh, I know. So we're just going to blame it on them.
Yeah,
it's like too many people are on and y'all just messed up the whole thing. But the good thing is all of this will be edited, like when we put it up and stuff. So I know our producer Danny, like I said, is pulling his hair out again. He's like, oh, I got to do that. But anyway.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, Danny. I know you back in the background. Yeah, you do.
So Eric, a belated happy Father's Day.
Likewise, my brother.
Appreciate you, man. I'm here for you whenever you need
Likewise,
to talk.
I'm here for you too.
If you're on that ledge, just come on. We'll be on the ledge together.
Now we're in one fraternity, now we're in another.
There you go. All right, man. Well, you take care. We'll be talking.
Hey, man,
soon.
Glad to have you. Hey, thanks, guys. Enjoyed it. Had fun.
All right. But anyway, thank you, Eric. Want to appreciate him coming and being transparent, open. Hope you got some information, not just information, but to understand that you're not by yourself. And we encourage you now as we close out to follow us, subscribe, share. We've got a lot more engaging conversations with people in different stages. And also you get to follow my next journey as I get prepared to find out what's going on with this biochemical reoccurrence. And we'll go through this together. In the meantime, you can visit our website at www. I like that. See, old people, boomers, we're going to say www. You see it on the screen. ifyouaremybrothers.org. You can go to that website and get more information about our community engagement project. You can sign up for our newsletter. You can reach out to us and just stay in contact. Also, we have a website specifically for the podcast. So we do stream on YouTube, but we also upload on all the podcast formats. So if you're whatever you've got, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever, you'll be able to tune in and share as well. But the website for the podcast is pretty easy. ifyouaremybrothers.podcast.com. Main website, ifyouaremybrothers.org. This is a nonprofit venture. We want to encourage you to support us, if you will, in this effort as we do our community engagement. You can support us a number of ways. We did, I think, have a QR code that we were going to put up that you can take a look at and scan with your phone. See, we got, I'm an old timer, but you can go to the website on the donate page. It's got all the different ways you can give. But whatever you can do will help us in this effort as we continue this podcast and continue these projects. And the whole goal is to help someone get through this, hopefully save lives so that we all can celebrate Father's Day. We can all celebrate other holidays. We can be around for our children and our grandchildren. So this is important. If you're watching and you're a spouse or partner, please share the podcast. Please share this YouTube channel as well. We really do appreciate it. We thank you in advance for your support. And as we close out, we want to thank Eric again for coming and being a part of this. We want to thank our producer, Danny, who's probably aged 3 or 4 years after the little technical difficulty at the beginning. Also, our digital media coordinator, Jordy, will be pushing out all of the digital media. I think he's even got us on, we're going to be on TikTok. So I can't wait to do my TikTok prostate cancer dance. I don't know, whatever you do on TikTok. And also, we want to thank Zach at Borkhouse Productions for our opening. I want to also tell you that Jordy and Danny are both University of Georgia students. Well, actually, Danny just graduated, so they're part of our internship program. We appreciate them and their wow, these I tell you, these young people are so talented. And also Zach at Borkhouse Productions, a millennial doing his thing up in Chattanooga. New dad, by the way. Congratulations, Zach, to you. And thank you for the opening. So, as my son always say, we do a podcast called Boomer and the Millennial. I never know when to close. He's always telling me, come on, Boomer, let's go ahead and end it. So I don't want to be like a Spike Lee movie. So again, thank you. And if you are my brothers, you'll get your PSA check. We'll talk to you next time.